Polish friends, Dzień dobry. Well, I'm from Singapore. My name is Henry. It's a great pleasure to be here today to share my experience with all of you. I come from Singapore, from a very far place. I think you know where it is, somewhere in China, I think. You know, right? Yeah. So, and Elio has been so kind to invite me here to share my experience with you. But he felt that I come so far away, I should work a little bit harder. So he gave me 2 lectures. So please be kind with me. I am a little bit jet lagged, so if I talk a bit of nonsense, please let me know. I have my presentation in 2 parts because it's in the morning and afternoon. I want to share with you my journey and how did I use different bone graft and how my experience has been and how it has changed my concept in bone regeneration. And I hope to walk you through step by step. So in the first half of this morning, I will try my very best to share with you my philosophy and my experience and my concept changes throughout the years with different grafting material. I know I look quite young, but I'm not that young. But let me just, of course, share with you today. I work with this institution and I work with many years with these people, and of course I have the privilege today to work with University of Napoli, and I'll be doing master's degree with them for all our dentists in Asia and in Oceanic region. I would also like to acknowledge my friend, Dr. Simon Ng, and Elio knows him very well. He's my partner in crime. We are both responsible for all the cases, and we will share with you a lot of our experiences, good and bad. In this morning, I will share with, rather afternoon. Yes, I will. Can I speak a bit faster? The translator, I can speak a bit faster. In case you don't understand me, I'm sorry because I speak Singlish. I don't speak English. So you try, okay? All right, thank you. So this is my friend, and we do a lot of cases together, and we show many of our cases, good and bad. And I will show you exactly how it is, nothing to hide. So it is our true experience. But our process of looking for a new grafting material never stops, because we know the complication of dealing with each things. And we know from our personal experience in life, isn't it, that when we use something, we want something natural. Many times we're told we're given something and they say it's the best. This has gone to a lot of scientific experiment, a lot of tests done. But with all these tests, we ask ourselves, how much of it is true? How many of you believe that you're drinking orange juice every morning and it's pure? How many of you think that you're eating something today, looks like apple, tastes like apple, smells like apple, and is a real apple? This is very important in my practice because my problem stays with me. When you do a grafting for a patient, you put an implant for a patient, the patient is married to you. And when something goes wrong, you are constantly reminded. When something goes right, patient never remember you. So it is very important for us to get something for our patient that lasts for a long time. And of course, conventional technique of placing implants, doing it correctly, is easy. Slam down, we get the result, and we get it because we know we have a good foundation to work with. But what happens when we don't have the foundation, and when it gets more and more complicated? But when the foundations are very stable, we know things will stay, and everything will be in place, and we get a good result. And patient never say thank you. But when things are difficult and challenging, it is when we really have to deal with a lot of more steps in our treatment. And when cases become like that, long time ago, we did this case more than 10 years ago, when we have to do grafting for this case, we are limited by the choice of material that we have. And when we are limited, very often, we will find that we have very little choices, and of course I found out today that in Italy, you have less graft material that you can use. And of course now with this new material, it will definitely be an advantage. So when cases like this will become more complicated, we have to go through the processes of grafting, putting membranes, and this was the olden days when we used to do that. And it's time consuming, and sometimes we ask ourselves 10 to 15 years later, what would be the result? And I do not have the answer sometimes. And for this case, we put patient through many procedures, finally getting to the final result for the patient. It is a long process, and how stable will this be? Who knows? It looks okay for 10 years, maybe 15 years. It might fail, I do not know. But if I now have something in my hands that is predictable, bioactive, and is stable, then I think we have a winner. Okay, this is something we have to still in the process of discovering together with the group here. So the choice of bone graft we have, very quickly, I just don't want to bore you with this, is that how do I select my choice of bone graft? It's not because Dr. so-and-so say so, Professor so-and-so say so. It's not important. Because you face the patient finally. It's important that when we have some principles to follow, for me to choose a bone graft is based on two key factors: the osteogenicity of the recipient site and also the osteogenicity of the graft. Put it simply across to you, if you have a site that is a highly osteogenic site, you can place anything in there, it more or less will work. But when you have a site that is less osteogenic, like we've seen some of our colleagues' cases where there are multiple infection, recurrent infection, very cortical bone, and you have a very scarred tissues, very often these are low osteogenic sites. You'll find that you have to use a graft material that is highly osteogenic. So when do you decide if this material is highly osteogenic or not? Most of us don't think. We just believe that we have a silver bullet, put it in there, you form bone. Boom. It's not true. And so we have to stop that mentality of following a recipe, thinking that this step and this step and this step you get bone. It's not true. We are scientists, we are clinicians, we have to decide with intelligence. We are not cook, we are chef. And when you do put a bone graft inside, very often, how do you know that the bone graft works? These are the principles. A bone graft that heals, and I say this today, many of my slides, I'm so happy, even though I'm glad I'm not the first speaker, but the fact that many of our colleagues have shared their experience, and we have not gone through our slides together at all, but I will show many things that are very similar. It means that whatever that we are doing is the same, whether I'm from the east and you're from the west, or you're from the north or the south. So these are the things that we see. The graft must be stable, it must bleed, it must be a bleeding bone, and the graft must be fixed, and of course the best is never look like the original bone. If it looks like the original bone, uh-oh, you're in deep shit. Is there a word for it in Italian? Deep shit? So a graft should stay, you should get bleeding, and you drill into it, it should have blood. And this is what I expect from graft. I'm expecting the same thing from the tool that I use. But I would like to also highlight a little bit, not spend too much time, and I'm very glad that many of the histology that I saw today is not a close-up histology. I want to put a case in point. Perspective is very important. How often we have looked at histology? Of course, first of all, you must understand histology. If you don't understand histology, it just looks very beautiful with a lot of colors and you can put it on the wall. But if you understand histology, you need to look it in the right perspective. What do I mean by perspective? Let me give you a case in point, and this one Elio will know very, very clearly. How often have we looked at implants and company have told us, this is a very good surface, right? All of us have seen this. Is it meaningful? No. But when you look at this kind of surface, close up, it always looks perfect. But on the same surface, far away, you start to realize how dirty the implant is. Now, I'm not trying to talk to you about implants, but I'm trying to talk to you about perspective. It depends on what you want to look. If I have a histology that shows you everything is perfect, I choose the best spot to show you. But the fact that a lot of colleagues today have shown you histology far away, you get a chance to look at real histology, sectional histology, it's serious. And when you get this kind of histology, you get a true histology. So I'm glad today we have this kind of sharing experience, and everybody seems to share the same view. So when we look at histology, I'd like to highlight to you, this is nice, this is good, but this is too close. I like to look at it far away. When we look far, we have a better perspective of things. And this is exactly what we have seen in our cases, and these are my histology that we've done close to 5 years ago with the tooth. So what are we really looking at? I will not highlight this. I will go through this very quickly. We all know we need to look at cells and so forth. But particularly like what Professor Tracy has said, look at the fact that there is a lot of osteoclasts. The fact that where there's osteoclast, there's osteoblast. And when there's osteoclast, there is always osteoblast laying down bone. Never paint a wall when it's smooth. Always dirty, make the wall rough before you paint. It's the same principle. And this is what we do from basic histology. It looks nice, but it's meaningless if you do not know what you're looking at. But sometimes, you get a different reaction. you get cells like this, multinucleated, looking like osteoclast, but it's not. It's a foreign body reaction, and this is not good. Obviously, a foreign body reaction means it's a negative in terms of cell acceptance or host acceptance. And when companies like to show us beautiful pictures like this, and this picture is from Geislich, they always show us all these pictures highlighting the importance of osteoclasts. Sure, it looks nice. But when, again, looking at perspective, when we look far away, we get the real picture. When we look far away, we finally understand the true roadmap, whether this is good bone or bad bone. So it is important to understand perspective. Understanding this histology, what is the meaning? What does this translate to clinically? It's important for us to take something that's scientific and translate it into clinical practice. It must make sense. Otherwise, all this is just paid knowledge and useless clinically. So what does it mean for you and I in our clinical practice? Let's look at these 4 pictures. Right on this side, your upper left is number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Which of these clinical situations would be your selection? Anybody like number 1? Number 2? Number 3? It's quite nice of number 3. How about number 4? Well, number 1 is a xenograft. And when you get this kind of grafting reaction, it's not a good reaction. We all know that. I don't have to go into details. And when you get graft material stuck there, you have a high chance of getting infection. Number 2 is an allograft, pure cortical. Again, it is, as already described by many of our colleagues, it's nothing more just like a xenograft, because it's nothing more than just mineral space occupying the area. It is not a reaction that the body wants. When the body does not want a reaction, it excretes. You shit because you have too much waste. It's the same. I'm sorry. My English too bad? Okay, sorry. I apologize. And number 3 and number 4 is reaction from bone where the body accepts. Number 3 is an allograft that's pure cancellous. When you find that the body actually, over time, absorb it, replace it with new bone. And number 4 is with the tooth graft. And it's a reaction that we consistently get in our cases. Every case that you do, how you see histology is how the biology and the tissue react. It's exactly the same way. If it's not the same, then obviously something is not right. Either the histology is wrong or your biology is wrong. So it must translate to exactly the same. So if you're given a choice, I would really like to have the bottom 2 situation in all my cases. And that's how the body reacts. So what do we want from the graft material? It's very simple. And you already know all these specs. I'll go through this very quickly. Well, what we want to see from graft, obviously, it must be able to produce a space. Basically, it must have space for cells to go in, a house for the cell to go in, and you must be able to produce bone. An area that is safe for the bone to make a family and make babies. And so these are the spaces that we need. So it's a basic to have a space. But we remember, I told you, some cortical bone, when they're so cortical, they do not have space. So again, that's perhaps why the body reacts a certain way. We need to remodel the initial bone form and also maintain the mature bone form over time. And it must be able to stabilize the implants when placed simultaneous with the graft. Of course, low in infection, easy to get, low in antigenicity, and highly reliable. Not difficult. You already know the answer. So when we look at all this grafting material, we're all familiar with this. I shall not elaborate too much, but I like to translate this to clinical cases. So obviously, the first thing we look at is xenograft, because it's probably very popular in Europe and as well in the United States. A case I would like to just share. So this is the traditional way where I do my cases, where we extract, or in the case of this patient has a Bowles tooth that fell out after a trauma. We place the implants the same way. We used to put a lot of grafting material and we use a lot of bio-os in this case. So we place a lot to fill it in. And last time, I waste the tooth. Today, I kill myself if I do this. Last time, I would take the tooth and make it into a crown. Today, this is bone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is gold. Okay? So, what we did last time was like this. Make a temporary for the patient, and this is the best temporary crown because it's natural. And of course, this is nothing special, just to show you the process. And then later on, obviously the patient was quite happy. The patient actually disappeared for 3 years because he said it's a good professional, it's very stable, looks like my teeth, I'm not coming back. And he didn't pay me the half the money. This is the healing initially when we changed to a new crown, and of course over time the tissue stabilized. Well, it looks very nice like this from a clinical perspective, even after 5 years, and you get a very nice result. But what does this mean? Perhaps you look at this and say, this is good enough. But what happens if you look at the X-ray? You get an area like this, with this density all around it, thinking that it's bone, and you look around it, it looks so porous, you get a lot of porosity all around the place, and you look at how the bone stays next to the implant, it's very different from the natural bone, and it becomes a concern for me. Will this really be a true barrier, or is it just a scaffold? When it's just a scaffold that's porous, it becomes a source of possible infection. And I cannot accept this. So traditionally, what happens to this bone graft? Very simple. I use another case to illustrate. We place the implants, grafting, and so forth. I don't want to show you this. You can place all the autogenous bone that you want. And then you place this very important grafting material from the seaside, right? You get this sand, very expensive sand. This is cow bone, by the way, if you don't know what it is. Okay? When you put this bone graft and so forth, and all this graft that you put, how do they react? How does the body make use of this bone? Let's see. When I have to do a soft tissue graft procedure, you can see how this bone behaves. It is just there as a scaffold. It looks like bone, but sometimes doesn't even feel like bone. And if you drill into this, I can probably guarantee you the one big chunk of it will fall off. It is nothing more than just a soft tissue scaffold. That's it. You are not getting real bone. And when this is not real, you are ready for this disappointment. So even though when we do all this procedure and we finish the case, I keep asking myself, what will happen to this? I don't know. Today I don't have a problem, it's 10 years old and the patient is still fine. What happens in 12, 15, 20 years? I don't have the answer. But if you look at the literature, perhaps there are more and more clues, and a lot of our colleagues this earlier on have shown us what is going to happen to the fate of this xenograft. Clearly, it has some misgiving. And they found that in their conclusion, that the bone formation, even in the extraction socket, was delayed after grafting. How could a graft material delay your healing? If a graft material delay our healing, obviously it's not helping. It's nothing more than just a scaffold. So this is not something I want as my gold standard. How about looking at other grafting material like allograft? Do I get a good result? Yes, right now at the moment I get a good result, but I have my fair share of questions, as I showed you in some of our clinical cases earlier on. Cases like this, where we used to extract the tooth and place the implant, and then after that, this bone graft that we placed is purely cortical. And this is exactly what happened with this purely cortical, with the provisionals done and so forth. Let's look at straight away at the healing stage. So this is immediately after the implant and the provisional has been placed. You can see the initial part of the healing. Again, you get a very, very funny interface. Obviously very different from the native bone. And this is not something that I want. And how does it look like after osseointegration of the implant? Let me show you. This is after the initial integration. You can see it's still very porous. But look at it from a clinical perspective. You can see a lot of granules that are stuck on these surfaces. This is not something I want. Full stop. It's absolutely not acceptable today. And this is just the final cases of the provisional modification of soft tissue and so forth. I'm just going to skip this. So even after all this while, you can see all these granules. It is something I cannot accept. And I hope you share the same view as I do. The best is obviously autogenous, and we know this is the gold standard we talk about, and I don't have to elaborate further. And obviously, autogenous have its own misgiving. The patient has to go through another surgery. There is a possibility of morbidity, and obviously, with all these big surgeries, it comes with a price. The patients have to suffer more. You probably go through additional surgery. It's more complicated to do, and you find that very often, after the bone graft is in place, after consolidation, we still have to manage the soft tissue, like this. And all this consolidation over time obviously has a better result. You see how the interface is gone and the bone is slowly formed over time. And this is the result that we get. But to put the patient through an autogenous procedure is truly a very painful procedure for the patient. And if I can avoid it today with a less invasive but equally good material, that will be the goal. That will be the silver bullet. So what we think is that autogenous bone is a mineral scaffold, obviously with collagen and cells. So, but how can I copy this as close as possible? Well, we did it actually with our allograft as the mineral scaffold. And the allograft itself has a collagen matrix, and the cells we use is the cells from our blood. So a lot of our cases, at this present moment, where we don't have a tooth, we work with an allograft. Even on cases like this, where the bone is very cortical, we use a lot of concentrated growth factors in many of our cases. I will not talk about this, everybody knows this. Obviously, it produces a lot of growth factors, and this comes from our platelets. I use mostly this machine, and it serves my purpose. And in the publication, they also look at the possibility of stem cells being able to be retrieved from the blood, and this can be mixed into our bone graft to facilitate and give the site a boost, like one of my colleagues say, and what I call it healing on steroids. So these are the processes. So what we do is, in a lot of cases, we take the bone graft, we put it into the liquid phase, and we mix it up. And when we mix it up, it gives us ability to play and work with it. So this is done before the surgery, and then we perform the surgery. And when you finish with the surgery, you will have enough of this bone, and by then it will be set into a patty like this, and you can pick it up, fold it up, and shape it. And this is because we have the ability of using growth factors to assist us in forming and molding the graft. But we can see earlier on, Elio has shown you that many of our grafting cases with the tooth graft, we can easily mold this without having to go through this process. But if you like to use a tooth graft to do it, you can do the same thing too. So it's basically that easy. So I have a good result with this. So why do I need to use a tooth graft, right? But I will share it with you in the afternoon why I use a tooth graft. And please stay around because I do have some exciting cases to show you about how we use the tooth graft to push the boundaries with our cases. So in cases like this, it becomes very easy. It's the first time you can use a tweezer to pick up a particular bone graft, and you can shake it all around, and it's no problem. It's not going to fly everywhere. And you can put it and mold it to the shape that you want. And even when you put your flap back together, or you drop your flap, it will not stick to your flap. And it's a very stable situation for you to work. So earlier on, I showed you the case. It's the same way. We put the bone graft in this manner. And then I use the CGF membrane. I have not used a collagen membrane for already more than 8 years. So you can't find a collagen membrane in my clinic. So this is what we did. And this is the healing of the patient. Well, is the healing for a week? No. It's a healing for 16 hours. So this is the result we can get with a growth factors. And we do not have to wait any longer with healing. In fact, it's only less than 4 months. I can open it up, I can drill into the bone, and there will be bleeding, and I can spread the bone, and it will not fall apart. This is the result we're getting consistently with our allograft with the CGF. And this is the kind of things we can get. So How about bigger augmentation procedures? I use the same technique, but even with the tooth graft, I use the same. I use tenting screws. What we do, like cases like this, you can see is a true and true defect like this, and also a horizontal and vertical combination defect. With the tenting screws, we can position the tenting screws to the volume that we want and add the bone graft. The tenting screw stabilizing the graft, and this is the result that we can get on a consistent basis. So we can easily drill to the bone and place. Even for very cortical bone like this and very thin, again with the tenting screws, we can finally, when we heal, we get a very good healing result. So this is the minimum basic result I'm getting from my allograft and with my grafting material. So do I need to change? Do I need to even improve? That's a question. Do I have to think through all this process of using a patient's tooth? But the fact that there will always be concern with an allograft. So that was mostly with cortical cancellous. And this is a case that I used purely cancellous you saw earlier on with the case. After the extraction of the tooth, we placed the implant, and then we placed the cancellous bone graft inside and closed it. This is the old way that we used to do this last time. Today, obviously, the tooth will be extracted and the tooth will be used as bone graft. And this is the initial X-ray. But let's look at the healing. This is exactly what we want, isn't it? Nice, healthy tissues with no grafting material. And when this is stable, we can finally tell ourselves we have a stable situation to work and we will feel comfortable with that final result. And this is the final result. Wow, beautiful. No? It's not beautiful? Yeah, there's no papilla. It's okay. If your tissues are healthy, biology is respected, God will help you. There is no Photoshop regeneration here. It is tissue regeneration on its own. When health always translates to aesthetics. Aesthetics may not necessarily translate to health. So it is important for us that when we do something, we start on a good starting point, good platform, and we have a higher chance of getting a better result. So having said all these things, the thing is that this not only have to be stable, we know that this is a situation that we have gotten, and we want it to last a long time. And it should stay healthy, whether hard and soft tissue. We should maintain this. So again, my question is, why do I need to change if I have no problem with my allograft? And I'm consistently getting results. Why change? Human hates changes, but changes is the only constant. But the fact that we have to change because there's always something better in the horizon. And there will always be concern with graft material. And of course, even with allograft, I get very good results. These are my main concern. It is never homogeneous. It's always a question of biocompatibility. It's a risk of rejection. It is something I cannot accept because this will always be the answer. It will be a costly source because it involves a human, solve your question about the donors that have been given the bone graft. So if the patient, the allograft, comes from an older patient, obviously the quality of this bioactiveness is questionable. And often, if you tell a patient, I'm going to put somebody else's bone in your mouth, it is always very difficult for them to accept. But I have no problems telling a patient, how about taking your tooth and make it something useful? So far, the patient has never rejected me. Up to this point, after 5 years of doing with a tooth graft, my patient has never said no. But every patient has said yes. The only people who say no is the dentist. We are the limitation of our own growth, not the patient. So I will leave it at this short presentation for the first half, but we are looking at an alternative grafting material. That will be the second half of the presentation. So I know it's quick, but I just want to give you an overview. Thank you very much. Hello, I'm back. It's me again. Okay. I'm going to continue where I stopped. This is the part 2 of the presentation. I remember I told you earlier on about my concerns using allograft. So the alternative is to look for something as close as possible to the gold standard, which is the autogenous bone. So what is the alternative we have? This alternative is an innovation. Obviously, it's not an innovation to many of us, but it's an innovation because we don't believe in it, and we are only using it today, even though there are enough publications to look at it. Well, when we try to do something like this, we are always mentally prepared to be misunderstood. When you are finally having someone saying you're talking rubbish, you're doing something that is wrong, you are right. And sometimes when it's that very difficult step that you take is the right way. And I think Elio understands exactly the problem we have faced very often. And the funny thing is, everything that we have thought of before, the problem is to think of it again. And why do we look at this? Because it is actually nothing new. This is what many of the colleagues have already presented in their literature and telling us that it is there. We have to open our eyes. The answer is in nature. And I'm so happy that Hugo spoke about using autologous and autogenous things, because I think this is the way to go today. And we have again and again, and many of our colleagues showed you the predictability of using something from our own body. Why take something that is dead when we have something that's natural and free from our own body? So the autologous tooth material is a material of choice that we use in our practice today. And what used to be trash, we extract, we throw, today, to me, is gold. And it is something that our patients have freely. And the reason many of our patients refuse to extract their teeth is in the first place because they know the moment this tooth is out, it's thrown away, and I have to go through an expensive procedure for the dentist to drive his Porsche, his Ferrari, his Maserati. But when we start to think for the patient and we say, we have an answer for you with your own body cells and your own thing is free, it becomes different. The patient's acceptance is increased. And the patient thinks that you care. This is what I think. You may disagree with me, but I find that it's easier to talk to my patient about this than talking to a dentist. And why is it so difficult for us to accept? I cannot understand, but we accept technology and concepts like this. Root banking, root submergence, we listen to people telling us, and we believe this, we accept leaving roots in the socket. But we cannot accept taking something out, clean it up, and put it back. What's wrong with us? Essentially, this is something, if you can accept something like this, the root is diseased, you do a root canal, you try your best to keep the diseased root in the socket. Does it make sense to you? And we do that all the time, and then again in the literature we talk about submerging the roots, and there are complications. There are complications of the roots probably coming out, or you can have infection inside. But we accept this. We really accept this without thinking. Am I talking to myself, or are we on the same page? But it's okay, I'll talk myself happy. And this is things that we do, and this is what people are talking about. And now recently, people are talking about this. And I'm sure you have heard many people talking about this, doing the root shield technique, cutting, leaving roots inside there, and hope for the best. It's technique sensitive, and if you don't do it correctly, you don't get the result. But if you do it correctly, you get predictable result. Predictable? Is a root sitting in a nice socket? Is a root sitting in the ideal situation? Did you prepare the root carefully? Did you dislodge the roots without knowing? Can the roots down the road become infected? Can the roots down the road become complicated and exfoliate? We accept this nonsense. I'm not saying this is a nonsense technique, I'm just saying that accept non-predictable outcome. But we do not accept taking a root out inspecting our sites, like what all our colleagues have been doing, cleaning it well and putting it back. And knowing that you're putting in something cleaner. I don't think it's difficult to understand this. And of course, the publication is full of saying, look, it works. Sure. You should always buy the man a few beers and talk to them. The truth always comes out after a few years. And the fact is that why we leave roots inside, because we talk about the bundle bone. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to waste time. We know that we all know this already. And when you remove all these roots, obviously you're worried about this resolving. But the reality is, when you do a root shield technique or you do any of this technique, leaving roots behind, are you really leaving roots in an ideal socket? Or are you leaving roots in a natural existing instances of fenestration? And you trust that when you remove this root, or you leave some of the roots behind, this bony wall is supporting the soft tissue. You are giving yourself a false security. Why not do it predictably, ladies and gentlemen? And moreover, we know that this bone is really thin. And in fact, if you look in the literature, we look at the presence of the facial bony wall. You find that in many cases, in the crestal level, we have about 25% of missing bone wall. Yet, we leave the root behind. What are we putting ourselves into in a very unpredictable situation at 25% of the time? In the mid-root level, you can even have a 10% missing bone wall. So, if you choose to execute the procedures that we talked about earlier, which is doable if you have an ideal situation. I'm not saying that it cannot be done. I'm just saying that when you want to choose to execute any of this procedure, you might want to consider these probable factors that could compromise your outcome. So, the fact is that if you look at the tooth and the bone, it's no different. Our colleagues have talked about it. The tooth is the only mineral structure in the human body that is outside the mucosa. It's the only structure that's outside the body. Everything else is underneath skin or muscles. But this is very easy to answer. Cortical bone, enamel. Cancellous bone, dentine. Pulp, marrow space. It's not difficult. Nature has originally given us the idea. And if you look at the constitution, they're about the same. Colleagues have already talked about this. I'll skip this. I'll skip some of the things because many of our colleagues, and even Professor Elio has already explained. So what the literature says? Well, nothing special. It started in the 1960s. So full of literature already in the 1960s on this. So colleagues have already talked about this. So you find that things like bone formation by auto-induction. Even the 1970s, when some of you are in the 1970s, you're happy with the discotheque and Greece, it has already existed. Okay. So these are all the literature available. So already in the early 60s, in the early 70s, there were already quite a lot of literature, as many of our colleagues have already presented. And of course today, the sound comes out. So today, what we can do is that there are a lot of techniques available in the market. So things like this is from a Korean brand, but you look how many steps it takes just to prepare. Well, this is really stress-free, right? Okay. So you see, easy. The technique like this, and you have to do it not in front of the patient because you have to do the hammer in front of the patient. Then tell the patient, this is your tooth. Psychologically, the patient finds it difficult to accept. So this is a very elegant way to do it. But this sometimes can take a little bit too long. So sometimes, if you extract the tooth, you can actually do it earlier if you have the tooth. If not, what I'll do, I actually use a hammer to break it first into smaller pieces, and then I let the machine run for my milling, even the patient's not around. Then when the patient comes, the milling process is over. I just put the bone graft into the container and then start the process of chemical treatment. So the granules from the other system tends to have a mixture, and this is like glass, broken glass. This is enamel. This is not what we want. Okay? And these are the rest of the mineralized dentine, not processed yet. So we can measure and get the amount of volume. Usually for a molar, easy to get, 3 grams. It's very easy. So what we do in our clinic, we have a space where we keep all the patient's tooth. And we only cut the tooth when we need and do it. So can you see the process of the TT is actually very simple and very elegant. Okay? So anyway, you know the process. So that's it. TT, just press a button. That's it. Now this, you now have to prepare the chemicals and so forth. So each system have their own strength and their own weakness. So you have to decide what works for you. Okay? And this is a lot smaller and this is a lot bigger. This is very heavy to move it around. So you must have enough distilled water in your practice. You have this chemical, you pour it in and must pour it in correctly. My nurse have made a mistake of pouring it wrongly before and we have a problem. Whereas for the TT, everything is done for you on the machine. There's no need for you to think. Okay? So anyway, you all know the process. I don't have to keep showing you this. But just to let you know that it involves less variable with the TT. I'll just skip this. So this are the literature available today and even more from many of our colleagues that have presented today. And I'm very happy to see that. I'll skip all these studies. All this study on sterility, and it is already done in the early days, and we are able to control this. And this is a picture from the company. And cell adhesion tests, when we ran it, we are able to get very good results from the cells, and the cells spread out really quickly. Okay, and this is a good outcome. I'll skip this as well. We have seen this. And the wettability is essentially from the dentinal tubules. When you clean up the dentinal tubules, to provide a capillary effect. So it sticks together and clump together, like what Elio showed you just now, very elegantly. And so when you treat them, you get a very clean environment. So what happens that this area is full of collagen, type 1 collagen. I'm specifically very happy there's type 1 collagen, because this is the collagen that is essentially the same for the maxillofacial area. So we have no resorption or minimal resorption in our cases. And this is how a xenograft looks like. So you can compare dentine and xenograft. Surely very different in terms of their matrices and also the spaces. Okay, I'll skip this as well. And this as well. So it shows that there are type 1 collagen, we have BMPs and so forth. So these are the essential elements for us to have growth, for us to have a regeneration. So why is that BMP in teeth? Actually, it's very simple. We learned this when we were in dental schools. A BMP is a process that's found during tooth formation. During the formation of our tooth, it actually is present and it gets trapped. It gets fossilized inside the minerals. What we have done essentially as using the TT or any other machine is to release the proteins. And so the protein is useful. If you make, and the other thing that I look forward to is that not just the TT that is, because it's small, we purposely took a TT and took a picture with the neck. You can see how small it is. Obviously, you can see it before. But the fact that I talked to Elio about this is that we wanted to create actually a facility program where the dentists, if they are not ready to use the TT, we can create a facility that can help them to produce the bone graft. And this bone graft can be produced for them with the patient's tooth and with the records and everything. And you can keep it for the patient specifically. So, to cut the long story short, let's go straight to clinical cases. I will use a few clinical cases to illustrate my point. Some are very boring because you have seen the predictability. It's boring because it's predictable. That's simple. And that's why some of the cases I'll just go by very quickly. Some of these cases in my early days, we are able to extract them, place the implant, and we can graft with the bone graft at the same time, like what many of our colleagues did. This is a case where we did crestal leaf, and during the sinus leaf, I tore the membrane, as you can see. So the bone graft actually went into the sinus. Now, do you notice it stayed? wettability of the material actually did not cause the graft material to disappear or displace anywhere else. It maintained and stayed, even though I perforate through the membrane. And this shows because of the wettability of the material is able to stick together. And this is done even without the CGF liquids that we talked about earlier on. And this is another case. Why is it cut there? It's so clear. So we extract the tooth. It's very clear here. It's very down there. That's okay. No problem. These are the simpler cases. Nobody is interested. It's predictable. Extract the tooth, remove it, and then we prepare it, and then we put it back. Okay, basically that's it. It's very clear here. And this is only 4 weeks. And this is 20 weeks after implantation. So it is a very predictable procedure for all the single cases where you extract and do implantation. We can also extract this kind of cases, extracting the roots on the same day, clean it up and put it back. And we can just graft it in easily. Look at the quality of the bone when we remove it. It's bleeding bone. It is nice bleeding bone. And all those existing minerals are still very nicely fixed. You can take a periosteal elevator and scrape it, it will not come off. So this is a fixation of a consolidated graft. And when you drill into it, you get very nice bleeding bone. And this is essentially repeatable again and again. You see many of colleagues today that presented their cases to you. It is exactly the same. It doesn't matter if it's in Singapore, in Australia, you stand upside down in the south, or you stand right side up in the north. It's the same. It is predictable because it's biology and it's living. Placement of the implants, and then of course consolidation, and blah blah blah. Okay? But look at the quality of the soft tissue. This is exactly what we want, and this is our endpoint for our patient. And this is what we can create for the patient. And the X-ray. In severe cases like this, where there's big resorption from infection, we can also do it easily. Extraction of the tooth and graft it back. So this is a huge defect included here. Again, repeatable. It's boring, okay? So the tooth, the liquid CGF, make it the clump and stick it back. Exactly like what we have talked about. And then you can position it back, and I can make it into I do a vertical augmentation and horizontal augmentation. And finally, when you see, the thing is that why is this mineral like this? Because I use a different system last time. So I keep a bit of the minerals, the enamel, so that you can see up the enamel there. The advantage is I maintain the volume. The disadvantage of this is that it's very hard. So when you now use a drill to drill, you spoil your drill. And it's just minerals. Okay? So be careful when you have a lot of minerals like this, like enamel, and when you drill, you must be prepared that your drills, you can over-prepare your size, your drills, and have other problems, a basic problem, especially placement of your implants. So be careful, beware. So you can see a lot of these minerals. So this is the problem when you do not have a process that eliminates minerals uniformly. So you must have a system that is able to predictably remove minerals uniformly, and then you can minimize this kind of problems. So you can see that even after we raise the flap, we got a good vertical augmentation, but trust me, this bone is really hard. You drill and you drill and you drill. It's just very difficult to penetrate, and it becomes a complication. Okay? So which is why if you use some of these systems, they will recommend that you do simultaneous implant placement, not in stage, because the minerals will make the subsequent placement really difficult. I just want to highlight this. Another case, this patient's tooth is going to be extracted, and this is what the dentist's mother that was sent to me. The dentists never treat their own parents, they send it to the people you don't like, right? So they take out the tooth, and then again, this is the quality of the tooth that once we clean it up, and I PP into the bone graft. No, it's not. This is the liquid CGF. It's a joke. Did you interpret the joke for me? No? Okay, it's okay. Never mind, I'll tell them. And of course, you can easily pick it up, and we can put it into the socket like this, and then we can put a healing abutment. If you're not doing a healing abutment, we just put the membrane, and we do not advance our flap so that we maintain the mucogingival junction. And this is the consolidation over a period of time. And again, once we remove the healing abutment, look at the quality of the soft tissue. This is, again, repeatable. And this is how the body reacts when it does not reject the graft material. And this is the final crown done with one of our colleagues. And let's have a look at the outcome. This is the x-rays. And this is before, and this is after. Would you agree that we have more soft tissue than before? Right? So the fact that not only we have maintained the bone, we can also, with this bone, maintain the soft tissue. Again, another case, I told you it's getting very boring. This is what many of our colleagues show. I will skip this very quickly. The graft together with the tooth graft together with the liquid CGF, and then we put into the socket, membrane, like this. And then this is opened up within 3 months, and you get very nice bone. And it's solid bone that you can drill into it. So, again, repeatable. Big defect like this, we clean it up with the dehiscences at the crestal area. Not too bad, but it's predictable. Again, we can graft and put it back. We can get predictable result over and over again. So you can get this bone graft, and then later on you can place your implants. So like this, after the healing. And then when we subsequently open up, you can see we've got very nice, solid bone here and bleeding bone. The placement of the implant and healing abutment. I'll just skip some of these cases. Nothing special. Simultaneous implant placement, extraction and place, and healing abutment. The root, again, the graft placed inside, and stitch. We do nothing special. And as what Elio told you, the healing on its own is very predictable and it's very healthy. And you're not afraid of the graft material coming out. In fact, we have a overgrowth of the soft tissue. And this is 2 months and finished. So this, you get a predictable result with the soft tissue again and again. It's not difficult to get a good outcome. When we deal with some of all these cases when there is already loss of soft tissue and even the bone, and with these cases where the incisors are already periodontally involved, again, we can extract these teeth and we can get a lot of graft. So we can see with 2 incisors, we can easily get up to 1 cc. That's a lot. We can then now manage the site. And in this case, what we did was to reach a wrist split, placement of the implant, and then we took the tooth and we mixed it in there together with the membrane. And then we stitch it up. During the second stage, when we open it up, look at the amount of good quality bone that we have achieved. It is so stable, you can even help to create soft tissue here and increase the keratinization. You can see how little the soft tissue is. The Chinese gum is like paper. So sometimes when you do not manage the tissues well, we can actually cause more recession. So we usually try our best. If you have a good solid bone base, we find that we are able to regenerate more keratinized soft tissue. Like this, we just leave it raw and open. And later on, we can create more soft tissue. And this is the final outcome of the business. Can we push the clinical boundary? Can we do more than just predictable? Can we go a little bit crazy, like mad scientists, think, okay, I have something very good now, maybe I can do more. Can we? Since we say it's so predictable, we all say that it regenerates, we all say that, oh, we can grow bone and the bone feels like bone and it looks like bone and everything. Okay? Can we push the boundary? This is from Elio, and when Elio showed me this, I go, whoa, very nice. Very good result. And he showed you very predictably the amount of bone we can grow on the buckle. Look at the amount of bone that we grow. And this bone, and after a while, it consolidates. It doesn't look like an interface, like you can see here. Over time, it disappears and it blends in together. And he places it flat. Again, I'm sorry to say this. This is predictability. And again, colleagues after colleagues have shown you predictability, even though it is a buckle, vertical augmentation. What if I push the envelope a little bit more? This patient is 76 years old, and a lady, menopausal, and she's on medication, and she has a periodontal disease in this tooth, and we have to remove the tooth. How bad is this tooth? Oops. Let's have a look at the amount of bone loss, both buccal and palatally. Let's look at it again when I move back. Would you agree that we don't have buccal bone and we don't have palatal bone? Yes? So what I did with this case, I did a little bit crazy. I did not raise a flap. I just extracted the tooth carefully, try not to tear the soft tissue. I curette the area to make sure that the socket is very clean, make sure there's no granulation tissue inside, and I just put the TT bone back. But I condense it very tight. So it's only contained within the soft tissue on the buccal and the palatal. And this is how it looks. You can see that the graft is only in the middle. It doesn't go to the side. It's right here. Because it is not a flap. I did not raise a flap. Let's have a look after 5 months of consolidation. Maybe I should work a little bit shorter, but let's see. This is 5 months. We start to see some bone on the buccal and palatal. Let's see as we go backwards again. Maybe it's an illusion. You see what you want to see, correct? But let's see. The best is to open up a flap. We have the bone. Houston, we have a problem. We got bone. Yeah. And this is the bone. We are able to regenerate. Yes, the bone is a bit soft, but it's bone. When you drill into it, it bleeds. The implant can be inserted at 35 newtons predictably. So, this is obviously not an illusion.
How long later?
This one? 5 months. And the patient is only 76 years old. Yeah. Yes?
Do you use a membrane?
No. No. This case, the membrane is only on the top to protect the graft from coming. Not membrane, CGF membrane. Yes.
Does it make a difference? Do you do regeneration after extraction, or imagine 3 or 4 years later?
Repeat the question again.
Does it make any difference if you do the regeneration post extraction, or imagine you resist this 3 or 4 years later and you don't have to work like horizontal?
You mean, will this disappear?
Yeah. What would you do in this case? If you have to.
If I have a tooth now with no bone at all around the area, I have this is not only one case. I have a few cases like this. We didn't raise a flap, and we just try to see, is it really real? Can we regenerate bone without even raising a flap? Yeah. Next time, if I have an opportunity, I'll show you even more cases. It is something that we were shocked, and we don't understand why. I can't explain to you why. We took this picture many times. I asked 3 persons to witness this to make sure that I'm not seeing the wrong thing. Okay? And we're able to place the implant in. And at this stage now, it's already in provisional. So I'll show you the next time when it's finished. I really hope that I will have another opportunity to show you. But let me show you another case. Not this case, it's the one more case. So again, extraction. And if the site is infected, I generally will not graft immediately. I extract, I keep the tooth, I curette, make it clean, and let the soft tissue heal over. Okay? and usually we'll put a CGF around the area to help the soft tissue heal, purely for soft tissue. And let it heal. And then now, during this process of this healing, we notice that actually we also have a defect here, okay? And now we have this problem. We say, whoa, this is bad. So we raise the flag. We wanted to check, and you can see there is no more distal bone. Agree? It is a bad day. It is a shitty day. Please translate shitty day. And when you raise the flag, you see the root. Okay? You just see the root. There is no bone. It is bad news. It is bad day. And we tell the patient that I'm going to just put the bone graft in there. I do not know what will happen to this tooth, honestly. At that point of time, I honestly tell you, I do not know what to do. So we put in the graft, and then it looks like this. It looks okay on the x-ray, so it looks happy. Oh, there's bone, you know? It's okay. Sometimes you just have to give yourself a little bit of comfort. Take some angel hair. No, absolutely not. Yeah, we did not treat it because we didn't scrape it or anything. And the question is, did I treat the root? So I did not treat the root. I just leave it as it is, and flush it with just normal physiological saline. Okay? And then we place the graft, and with the CGF membrane on top. So this is post-grafting after 3 months. It still looks bad, right? So it's okay. I try to tell myself, okay, there's something there. I just tell the patient, oh, we get some bone there, some, you know. I didn't tell the patient that it's bad. I said, some bone there. And then we wait. So when we raise the flag, it looks beautiful. Nice bone, like what every one of us has shown you so far. We drill, we place the implant, everything as normal. Then, after we placed the implant, we took an x-ray. We saw a little bit of change. We thought maybe it's a radiographic artifact. Maybe I make a little mistake. It's okay, let's not have too much hope. Let's just leave it as it is. It's not giving me problem. There's no problem with the tooth. And during post-implant placement of 5 months, we saw this. We go, come on. It cannot be true. And then we decided to say, nah, it's a radiographic artifact. So we ignore it, put our healing abutment, and of course proceed and finish with the crown. And during the review, after the implant surgery, after 6 months, we took a CT scan and we saw this. This is how it looked like. Yes, sir.
How do you decide to put the implants inside the graft? 3 months, 5 months, 6 months?
Okay.
And how do you decide to make the virtue of the implant? To make the loading of the implant?
Okay. I asked your first question for the sake of the translator. The first question is, how do I decide how long do I wait before I put an implant, right? Whether it's 3 months or again, based on first principle, autologous bone healing process, gold standard 4 months. But if you choose to use a non-autologous material, usually you wait a bit longer. It's called graft consolidation factor. But the fact is that I believe that the tooth graft material, the presence of BMP excites the area. So I do not have to wait 4 months. In fact, 3 months I can go in. But I'm delaying this purely not because of the site. I'm delaying this because of the PDL, of the premolar. Okay, that's the first question. And your second question is?
How many months you stay with the implants inside the graft before you make the loading of the...
The question is, how many months do I wait with the implant inside before I expose it to put a healing abutment or a provisional? The question is, basically, if you believe you have bone in there, the orthopedic principle is the same. Any bone trauma, minimum is 6 weeks. If you like to stimulate the bone or do a provisional, you can use this 6-week process of non-disturbed healing, and then proceed with what we call progressive bone loading, if you like. Okay, and this principle is not new. Carl Misch talked about it. University of Frankfurt talked about it as well. Okay. So essentially, this is something that we have created, and right now we have seen about 2 or 3 more cases with the same phenomenon, where we have lost PDL as long as the root is not exposed. The soft tissue should be there. As long as the root is not exposed, this has a possibility of regeneration. So we see a lot of potential with this, and I hope many of our colleagues will see this as well. So this is what we think are the boundaries that we can push. So it's really exciting times for us, and I hope I have the opportunity to show even more to you, and likewise for you to share your cases with me. So this is the final outcome from the very beginning and to the very end. If you could just indulge me, you can see over time the resorption over here, and then over here you see a more intact and continuous periodontal ligament. And the histology of the tooth graft, which I will not talk about it anymore, which our colleagues have talked about earlier on, but radiographically, we just make a very simple comparison of tooth graft versus other bone graft. If you look at it very simply, if you look at the tooth graft, the quality of the graft material to the host site versus autogenous bone, it looks same. Obviously, there are no difference in the quality of the outcome when it comes to radiographic assessment. But when you compare the tooth graft or the autogenous bone graft to allograft and xenograft, you know this is surely an interface. There is no blending and there is no consolidation, as you obviously see on the radiograph. Not today. Today, not only have I shown you from the radiographic perspective the differences, I have also shown you biologically and how the tissue treat the graft material when it rejects it or when it accepts it, because it is shown on the soft tissue reaction to the graft material. Okay? So the conclusion is that autogenous graft material is the best, it's biocompatible and no risk of rejection. The tooth is an easily available source, and there is no more concern about the donor source and the preparation because it is predictable. In fact, I show this to my patient. Look, I'm preparing it for you now, and this is how it looks. The patient is so happy because they are quite impressed with what is happening. I don't have to hide details for the patient because I don't know the details. As like allograft, you do not know how the bone is being given. And psychologically for the patient, like I said to you many times, the patient accepts it better than us. Maybe it's about time we change our attitude to things. Okay, so with this, I want to say one last thing to you. This is from Albert Einstein. The one who follows the crowd usually goes no further than the crowd. It's exactly like what many of us attend many times. Meetings, we go to the same place, we listen to the KOLs from the world telling us this is the best, and we believe. But when you choose to take a different road, sometimes you can die, right? But sometimes you get pleasant surprise. And I think today we are here because you are prepared to accept the fact that there are a need for alternative, there is a need for alternative, and there are alternatives, and there are predictability kind of outcome that you can get. So with this, I say thank you very much today, and for your time.